While playing with silvers, I noticed that many players in these ranks were close to being good enough for a much higher rank, but they were being held back by one or two things that were affecting them every game or even every single round. These errors would usually be relatively easy to fix, but since they negatively affected the player so often, the mistakes could do a huge amount of damage to their skill. That's why in this video, I will be going over the 11 things you can do to get out of silver. I recommend you watch every skill, even the ones you already know or have heard of. It's helpful to have a refresher, and you may be doing a small thing incorrectly, which has a large detrimental effect on your game. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be the first to see more videos designed to help you rank up just like this one. Keep in mind that these tips did work for me, but you may need something different. That is up to your own judgment. As with the last two videos, the first 10 people to head to the description down below will be able to join the Achax Discord server. Also in the description will be links to other videos elaborating on some of the more complex subjects to further help you advance your game to the next level. Hello everyone, my name is Achax and this is my guide to getting out of silver. Let's get started. Tip number 1 is trading. I think that if you were really average in everything else but phenomenal at trading, you should be able to get out of silver in no time. Trading is when teammates follow each other in order to make sure that opponents cannot eliminate a teammate without being eliminated themselves. Basic game mechanics such as firing and accuracy and only being able to aim in one place at a time create a window during or after a fight that makes winning a second fight much easier. Trading can be used to maintain a player advantage or at least stop an imbalance from getting much worse. This helps close out easy finishes and keep a fighting chance in more rocky rounds. One advanced use of trading that starts to become extremely potent in silver is the 1-for-1 to gain map control. In situations where singular opponents are holding control of larger areas of the map, like B Heaven on Split, you can use trading to secure not only a pick, but also map control, since your team will be the only one that has players left in that area. The most common mistake I saw in this rank with trading was spacing. You have to be close enough to take advantage of the window, but far away enough that you don't body block your teammates. In my experience, most players were too far away to trade properly, which allowed opponents to escape with a pick or recover and win the second fight. On the other hand, with some good distance management, trading can be used as a powerful tool to start tipping rounds into your favor. Tip number 2 is double peeking, and it's like the next level of trading. Trading is great when time to eliminate is so fast that your teammate is eliminated before you can peek. But most of the time in this rank with proper spacing, you can actually peek with your teammate. This allows you to more easily secure the pick without losing a teammate, giving you a player advantage. The second player in should try to peek in a different manner from the entry. If the entry peeks wide and crouched, the second player might try to peek close and upright. Having a contrast in location will maximize the benefit from the basic game mechanics we went over in tip number 1. Tip number 3 is take your time. It's something I've talked about before, but in this video I'm contextualizing it to silver. This particular tip is how I always got out of silver in a few games if I dipped down in the earlier days of Valorant. In my experience, silvers tend to overestimate the abilities of their opponents. Many players seem to feel the pressure to eliminate opponents immediately. While they may consciously understand the sequence of reaction, aim, fire, they tend to tie reaction and firing closely together or put firing on a sort of panic timer and end up firing before they aim. This results in the player being very fast at missing, which doesn't accomplish anything except giving the opponent more chances to eliminate them. In my experience, silver games contain lobbies sort of doing this back and forth. However, unlike iron and bronze, silvers are much faster at actually recovering from that and closing out a frag, which is why headshots become significantly more important in silver to make sure you stay far ahead of opponents. This strategy is especially helpful in getting out of silver, because it allows a player to string together headshots with a Spectre or Ghost to beat out players with Vandals and Phantoms. This greatly increased capacity to win save and force rounds will allow a player to deny opponents easy rounds and instead to take landslide victories. Taking that extra split second to aim before firing can make a big difference in time to eliminate. The bottom line is that increasing the time it takes to fire the first shot in order to aim can decrease the total time it takes to eliminate opponents, and this can win many, many more fights. Tip number 4 is play differently on low HP. Many people play exactly the same regardless of how much health they have. However, having a lower health pool puts you at a significant disadvantage because the opponents can eliminate you more quickly, such that having better accuracy or speed might not be enough to win a direct fight. Fortunately, you actually have a lot of options. The first is repositioning to flank. This will set you up to sneak behind opponents, which will help your team secure the round, even if you can't continue to take straight fights for crucial picks. I like to use this method after picking up an entry as my team attacks a site by running around behind the rotates to hit them in time to stop the defuse if necessary. The second is playing around smokes. Smokes make angles and crosshair placement kind of strange, and playing around them might allow you to get the jump on some opponents, sometimes even if they know you're around there somewhere. The third is playing corners. With this option, you're basically just hoping that opponents won't check your spot. Sometimes the chance that they won't is better than the chance of winning a direct fight. The fourth is baiting yourself. This is one of my favorite options in certain situations. Baiting is typically considered a bad thing, and this tends to be true when it is involuntary. However, baiting yourself with a proper callout is going to allow you to trade a player for information and hopefully a trade as well as map control. A lot of the time, having zero regard for the personal safety of your character in Valorant is going to allow your team to accelerate the speed of your attack, which is a huge advantage in Afterplant. Tip number 5 is tempo. Tempo is the speed at which actions are made in Valorant. While I could talk about tempo for hours, there is one specific aspect of it that I want to highlight for Silver especially: acceleration. Time is a very important factor in Valorant. Defenders need a certain amount of time to rotate between sites. Attackers need a certain amount of time to get to a site from a given position. When you stack up for a committed attack, even if you are sneaky, defenders can use that time that you give them to figure out where you aren't in order to deduce where you are and move to block you. Taking advantage of the window where your opponents haven't quite figured out where to be by accelerating your attack once you get into a distance that they cannot rotate in time to block you will allow you to take favorable duels instead of fighting the entire defense at the same time. This may not sound like a big change, but it can have big results in terms of round wins. Number 6 is mental flexibility. A lot of players do the same thing each round. This has a handful of huge problems. First, it makes them extremely predictable and easy to counter. Against opponents who do adapt, this is a huge problem, as the opponents will be able to shut them down even if they do come out ahead in the earlier parts of the game. Sometimes they play against opponents who don't adapt, but just happen to be using an approach that shuts down their playstyle. The game then progresses like auto chess, with the opponents consistently decimating and winning the game. It can be extremely beneficial to use a mix of strategies, at least 3 on attack and 2 on defense. Strong attacks in Silver include the rush, default, fake, and split. On defense, it can be great to have an aggressive and passive style. Links to the rush and default will be in the description below, along with more as I create videos on these topics. As you get better, you can learn how to play these strategies off each other to increase the effectiveness of all of them. In the meantime though, just being strategically flexible and trying different ones will help you find out what works and shut down auto chess players while avoiding the auto chess trap yourself. Tip number 7 is try nothing. This tip is extremely targeted towards Silver. A lot of the time, a good reaction to nothing is to simply relax and stay focused. However, this rank frequently has some interesting reactions to nothing that you can take advantage of. Some players react to nothing by rotating. Delaying your attacks and utility can sometimes make your attack significantly easier. Timing this can be extremely difficult, but you don't have to be perfect. Just catching opponents who are a bit mispositioned can help you start absolutely destroying opponents in Silver. Some players react to nothing by losing focus. It can be difficult to tell if that is the case from your perspective, but if opponents seem to have late reactions to delayed attacks, this might be a good strategy. Most importantly, and I elaborate on this in one of the videos in the description, some players react to nothing by pushing. In fact, this was so common that I would bank on it successfully against teams even when I hadn't seen aggression at that point. I'm not saying to take it that far, but holding for a push so that your team can grab a couple easy picks before crashing into a site can make for some easy wins. Tip number 8 is teamwork. No matter how good you become in Valorant, you are still just 1/5 of a larger team. That's a big part of why it can be incredibly important to learn how to be a good teammate. Contrary to popular belief, whether or not someone is a good teammate has very little to do with how many frags they have. Someone who is good at being a teammate is able to increase the effectiveness of their team, and a more effective team is better able to win. It's that simple. In Silver, you might benefit the most by focusing on something that many players greatly underestimate the importance of: callouts. Callouts can increase the speed of a frag by telling the team where to look. They can result in better positioning so that teammates don't leave themselves exposed to dangerous angles, or so that they can get the drop on opponents. They can make sure that rotates arrive in a timely manner so that teammates can support you and keep you alive. They help set up trades and double peaks. A lot of players know that callouts should be made after they are eliminated, but many could also benefit by sharing the location of opponents they eliminate themselves and making regular callouts anytime an opponent's position is given away. Keep your team updated with the latest information so that everyone can make informed decisions. The biggest mistake I see with callouts is using the word all reflexively rather than because all 5 players are actually in one area. This misinformation can easily cost rounds. It can help to only use distinct numbers 1 through 5 in order to avoid this easy but expensive mistake. There are definitely many beneficial components of teamwork that I can't fit in this video, but if you want to improve that particular part of your game, a link to a video on team chemistry will be in the description down below. Number 9. Follow a plan. A lot of players don't follow the team's plan. This can be a huge error because even if you are doing things that are generally useful, doing things irrelevant to the success of the team's goals as a whole probably won't help win rounds. For example, if your team plans a C and garage split but you walk up A short instead, you might manage to sneak onto the site, but by that time you're the last one standing and you don't have spike, so it doesn't really matter. If you don't like a plan, kindly explain why, and provide an alternative, come up with a plan for the next round, or fit what you're doing into the current plan. Continuing with the example, you could communicate that you are trying to ninja take A, so if they meet stiff resistance, they don't have to overcommit to C. This can turn something that hurts your chances of success into the reason for it. Tip number 10 is don't run through utility. In these ranks, there are generally an abundance of players who expect teammates to rush through utility. I should know, I was one of these people for a long time in CSGO. However, damage dealing utility in Valorant, especially Brim's Molly, is significantly more powerful than a Molly in CSGO in my experience. Even in my current rank, I still get 200 to 300 damage in a single round when players decide to run through utility. On top of that, Valorant's maps are designed with tight choke points, so running through a smoke makes your team like fish in a barrel. Running through utility usually puts your team on the back foot, with so little gain that it's usually just not worth it. While following a plan is crucial, adapting to developments in the game is also extremely important and can be very beneficial. Tip number 11 is favor aggressive information utility. Aggressive information utility includes things like Sova's scan dart and drone, as well as Skye's wolf and Cypher's camera when it's placed in aggressive angles. These tools are incredibly valuable in Silver, especially because players have a tendency to hover. This is when players stack towards a site and are in distance to hit but don't, usually due to a lack of initiative, which I talk about more in another video in the description below. In Silver especially, many teams continue on to try to hit the same site anyways, even after a delay, even if their plan is discovered. They basically just give your defense time to stack the site and repel them, and that is an opportunity you can take advantage of to absolutely shut down the attackers and take some easy wins. These are the 11 essential skills to rank out of Silver. You may have noticed a theme that many of the skills involved recognizing and taking advantage of various opportunities. Silver is a very exciting rank because it is many players' first taste of the variety of ways the game can be played, which become necessary as it gets more difficult to distinguish yourself by mechanical skill alone. This is going to be a growing trend as you move higher up the ranks, since more players will have more skills, and it's a big piece of what makes the game fun in my opinion. That said, it's very important to have a strong core skill set. The higher up you move, the more any mechanical weaknesses are going to drag you down, which is why I'm linking my guide on how to get out of Iron and Bronze in the description below. On the flip side, I am also linking a video talking about some of the ways the game expands around Silver, and how using an oversimplified view of the game can hold a player back. At the end of the day, moving past Silver is primarily a knowledge game. While it might be quite the struggle in the moment, it can seem surprisingly brief in hindsight. Make sure to be patient with yourself, make sure to enjoy the journey, and I hope you found some value in this video. Don't forget to subscribe, best of luck getting out of Silver, and I'll see you next time.